This is Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, written in 1897. Through the Looking Glass and Alice in Wonderland are a pair of books that go together. And they tell the story of Alice in sort of a fantasy land where things are not quite as they are. And she gets into this alternate world by walking through a looking glass. Now, a looking glass is a mirror. And mirrors aren't magical portals, though they really seem like it. What they are is they just bounce back the light. And they bounce back the light, and everything looks backwards. But it's not actually backwards because you're actually seeing it from what would be the other side, and because you're seeing it from what would be the other side, it looks backwards, but it's actually not. So if you have words written on a clear sheet of plastic and you hold it up, you see the words normally. And you flip it around and you're looking through the letters and you're seeing the back of the plastic. And they're backwards. Well, it's the same thing with a mirror. Because when you hold something up to a mirror, you're actually looking at it from the other side. So you're actually looking at it from the back, essentially. And there's a whole field of optics, and there's virtual reflections and real reflections. And so a virtual reflection is one that's reversed. And if you have a curved mirror, you can get a real reflection, which is right side up. But the right side up, or which is upside down. The real reflections are upside down, and there's a whole limerick about this, about a politician. There was a politician with much appeal who emphasized deeds with much zeal. Physicists, anyway, the punchline is if it's upright, it's virtual, not real. So talking about politicians, and if it's upright, meaning upstanding, wholesome, honest, then it's virtual and it's not real, which goes along with the optics joke, which is how you remember it, because that's funny. Anyway, so it starts out cats washing the kittens, and cats wash kittens, and it does the fur the wrong way. Now, you may not have noticed this because the hair is all frizzy, but hair on animals and people goes a certain way. So, for instance, my hair goes back. People's hair goes back, and dogs' hair goes back. Sloths are like the exception. Their hair goes forward because they don't know, they're just backwards. But so the cat's washing the kitten the wrong way. And one kitten was naughty. More like Alice wasn't paying attention and just left the wool on the floor. And the cat was like, let's play around with this. Because in a lot of ways, ball of wool, looks like a ball of fur, looks like something to eat to a little kitten. So the kitten was chasing it around, hitting it, batting it around. And because the ball wasn't secured well, it came unraveled. And Alice was like, naughty, naughty kitty. It's like, no, naughty, naughty Alice for not putting away the wool properly. And yarn comes in something called skeins, which are big loops. Now, the problem with the big loop is if you get a little bit tangled, it's really, really easy to make it into a knot. So just about every knitter, crocheter, anybody who works in yarn for the past 1,000 years, well, maybe not 1,000 years, they go to the store, they get this big skein of yarn, nice big loop. Why is it in a loop? Because it's really easy for a machine to spin it into a loop. So you have the machines that spin it like this, taking it up on a wheel. You just pull it off of the wheel, give it a couple of twists, and there you have something that can be stored, can be tossed without much effort. Problem is that once you start pulling off of it, once it starts unraveling, if you get a little knot in it, if you accidentally pull it off of the wrong end, all of a sudden this nice loop of wool turns into a tangled mess, and it's really hard to undo. So what knitters, crocheters, and such have been doing forever is they take the skein and they pull it off all at once. They just continuously pull it off, and they wind it up into a ball. Now, it's difficult to make a machine to wind it up into a ball, but it's easy enough to do by hand. And it's so much easier to wind each one up into a ball rather than risk one of 5, one of 10 turning into a mess of knots. Because if it gets tangled, once it's tangled, it's all tangled, and you have to go hours untangling things. So it's just you go by the skein of yarn, you roll it up into a ball, and you set the ball aside. Alice's case, she set it aside, and the Kitty, great name for a cat, Kitty, 3 cats, Dinah, Kitty, Snowflake. Snowflake's the white one, Kitty's the black one, Dinah's the mom. Anyway, Kitty decides, make a mess. And so she yells at the cat. And then she's like, I should go through the looking glass. And she goes through the looking glass, and there's a chessman. Now, the chessmen are red and white. A lot of chess sets, the canonical ones, are black and white, but red and white were popular colors of chessmen. So instead of black, they had red. So sees the chessmen don't see her. And she's like, let's help the queen up. And she carried the queen quickly, and she carried the king slowly. Now, this is kind of cool. If you think about it or don't think about it, it's kind of cool because a queen can move across the entire chessboard in one move. A queen can go across, down, up, left, right, diagonally. It can go diagonally as long as it's in a straight line. Any number of squares. The king can move in any way it wants, except under very certain circumstances, it can only move 1 square at a time. So the queen, zip, up on top of the table. The king slowly picked it up and slowly carried it across and slowly cleaned them off and slowly put them down. So the king moves slowly, the queen moves quick. No little thing. Then she picks up a book, realizes she can't read it because it's backwards, and then proceeds to read it backwards. And this is a famous poem, one of the more famous things to come out of Through the Looking Glass. And it's called Jabberwocky. And it's a lot of nonsense words and some real words mixed in. But the important part of Jabberwocky is that you understand what's happening without understanding all of the words. Now, Lewis Carroll was a teacher. And a lot of Through the Looking Glass and Alice in Wonderland is kind of a parody of the educational system when this was written. And so here you have him making fun of people making up new and fanciful words when there are plenty of good words to go around. Now, that seems a little short-sighted because Shakespeare made up roughly half the English language. Not quite half, but Shakespeare made up just huge numbers of words that had never been used anywhere before. He was the first one to put them down. Shakespeare was like, I need a word for this. Blah. And all of a sudden, blah was a word. So, oddly enough, in Jabberwocky, some of the words that were made up by Lewis Carroll to make fun of people just making up words ended up becoming real words. So this is this sort of full circle thing, which is hilarious in my mind. But anyway, so this was kind of a parody of things that were going on, but eventually it ended up parodying itself, or it ended up becoming what it was trying to parody. So yeah, it's not good, but it's really sort of funny. But anyway, this is Through the Looking Glass, and I hope you enjoy it.